All right, guys, so I'm super pumped about this section. I'm actually going to take you behind the scenes on a real portrait shoot with a real couple. We're going to go to multiple locations and everything like that. But before we get started, I just want to go over a couple fundamentals, some things that, this is more additional content to the above portrait video that's super in depth. So be sure to watch that one before you watch this one, because this one's going to be building upon a lot of the tools and tips that were given above. But before we kind of jump into the shooting, I want to just talk about a couple additional things that I didn't get to talk about in that first portrait video. So the first thing, when it comes to portraits, and you'll see this as I'm directing the couple in the live shoot, is you really want to slow down. This is one of the biggest things I started to notice that has really upped my portrait game, is letting the photographer kind of do their thing at first and just breathing and being like, trying to pay attention to what the couple's doing, trying to look on your phone for a couple poses and portrait ideas. Because what I noticed in the first few years of filming weddings and doing engagement shoots, my biggest enemy was myself. I would go so fast throughout the whole thing, and I don't know if you can relate, but I'd be filming a certain moment, I'd be like, this is awesome, and I'd be jumping so fast between shots that when I got back to the editing room, my shots were like seconds long because I didn't just pause and stop long enough to actually get the shot I wanted. So first thing is slow down. Literally do this before your portrait shoot. Take a deep breath. Realize you only need 4 or 5 awesome moments to make an awesome wedding film. So you don't need to be shooting the whole time, because if you shoot the whole time, you're probably going to end up with stuff that is not ideal. And another thing is, I already said this in other videos, but it's worth mentioning again, is when you're filming that little moment with the couple, the pose that you put them in, every shot, breathe, count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi before moving on to the next shot. Trust me, it's going to help you so much, because usually you're adjusting at the beginning of the shot and adjusting at the end. So you really only have this 3 Mississippi time slot in between every shot to get what you need. And so that's why we do 5 Mississippi. So that's the first thing. Slow down, focus on what you're doing. And also another tip is focus on moments. So don't get so caught up in 1 pose, 2 pose, 3 pose. You want to focus on, okay, how can I create a moment with the couple and focus on that and just get a couple shots around that. And in the live shoot, I'll show you what that means more so, but that's just kind of a precursor, get you thinking along those lines. So the next thing that's really important during portrait session is positive reinforcement. So you'll notice as I'm talking with a couple, I'm constantly saying, oh, that was so rad, like, oh, it's money, or like, you guys are doing such a great job. Never ever let your stress show, never be like, oh, I don't know, this doesn't look quite right, or like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm loving your hair right now, bride. That would just be a big no-no. If you're having any negative thoughts, just keep them to yourself and try to find, even if it's a wedding where there's certain weddings that are a struggle to where you're like, man, the light's not good, the bride's dress is maybe not the most flattering, or the makeup or the groom's suit, and there's a lot of bad things to say about the wedding. Find something. Usually on those really bad weddings, the couple's still really cute with one another. You could tell the groom really loves the bride and vice versa, and compliment them on that. Be like, oh, you guys are so cute with each other. You're such naturals at being romantic, because you don't do, and really make sure they are truthful things. Don't just come up with stuff. But by doing this, it gets them more relaxed and it gets you better moments for portraits. So be sure to notice, as even I am talking with a couple, how much positive reinforcement that I'm giving. And it doesn't have to be massive, just little things like, oh, you guys are doing great. You guys are naturals. Or like, oh, I love how you, say to the groom, I love how you whispered in her ear right there. That was awesome. Just little things like that. And then also, remember that not every wedding is going to be perfect. I remember when I was starting out, when I was doing portraits, I got so stressed because I thought every single wedding I had to shoot had to impress a million filmmakers, and it had to be a portfolio piece on my site. And I got so just control freaky, and it really ruined the wedding because I was trying to fit this kind of average wedding and make it into something like crazy, which it was never going to be. So realize not every wedding is going to be perfect. Kind of size up your wedding. So if you're about to go to a wedding and it's going to be like, you're like, man, this is an elopement on the cliffs and it's just going to be so crazy rad, put together poses that really complement that. But if you're doing a just typical wedding and it's not the most crazy out of this world thing, kind of think of poses and things that would more fit that wedding, because you're going to be more apt to be able to get those poses. And don't go to a wedding and have all these crazy poses where a couple's like walking on the cliff with a waterfall behind them and you're like, that's what I want to get at this wedding, where there's nothing like that. You got to be realistic. And then this has helped me massively with portraits. Use every last bit of light. When you're shooting portraits with a couple, literally shoot till it is dead night outside or until you have to go in for speeches, because you are always able to get some of the best portraits I've gotten have been from the last 5 minutes of light when I thought, no, I already got enough, but I'll just try one more thing. And that one more thing ends up being what I start the film with. And one tip off of that, what we've started doing is every single wedding that you shoot for portraits, recommend to the couple to do a sunset shoot with them. So now every time we shoot a wedding, we always suggest to the couple, hey, let's do a sunset shoot. That's a separate shoot from just the regular portraits after the ceremony. And we usually tell the couple it's only like 15 or 20 minutes, and we do it right after their grand entrance or right after their speeches. And it has saved our butts, because sometimes the portrait time, you're just not jiving with the couple for whatever reason, or you feel like you don't have everything you need, but then you have that backup sunset time for just 15 or 20 minutes to get more of what you need. And how I tell couples that we really need it is I always tell them during our Skype session, I'm like, hey, you know those really pretty like golden hour photos and videos that you see where it just looks so moody and soft and amazing? Like, we want to get that stuff with you because you've seen it in our work. So all we need is like 10 or 15 minutes right after your speeches for sunset photos. Now, trust me, guys, you're going to want to get these because the light looks so gorgeous and creamy and you guys are going to look your best. So let's try to make that happen. And whenever I say that, whenever I phrase it in a way that it makes it seem like, oh my gosh, like this is gonna make your film and photos better, they're like, oh, I'm all for it. And sometimes we're not always able to do it, because sometimes certain weddings, when the initial portrait session goes too long and then the sun has completely set and we're not able to take the bride and groom out. But most weddings we are able to do it. So if you're not doing sunset shoots, start doing them. It'll take your portrait game to the next level. Because one thing we've found is our films have gotten exponentially better as we've spent more time during portraits. So if you're only spending 15 minutes to do portraits on a wedding day, make that 20. If you're only spending 20, make that 30. And the longer you spend doing it, the longer you have the couple, the better your films are going to turn out. And the less stressed you're going to be because you're not cramming to get 300 shots in 5 minutes. Okay. And so this is a huge tip that you're going to notice in all the live shoots. So what we do during the Skype session when we're talking with a couple, I give them a little precursor in terms of what to expect during portraits. Because a lot of couples they've never gotten their photos taken before, or they might be a little awkward. And that's okay. You just got to instruct them a little bit. So what I tell my couples is like, first I say, hey, this is video, so it's a little different than photos. What's really important in video is that you guys are constantly moving, because it creates so much life and it makes it so much more natural in the video. So I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, so it's super simple. All I want you guys to do is whenever I put you in a certain pose or certain placement, just kind of fall into it. I want you guys to be thinking of, how can I be swaying? Or, to the bride, say her name, Sarah. I'll be like, Sarah, I just really want you, whenever, you're in a certain pose, I want you snuggling up next to Bob or whatever. I really want you running your hand up and down his shoulder, up and down his arm. I want you running it up and down his back. I want you guys just delicately touching each other's faces. And don't worry, I know that might not be comfortable as I'm saying it, but I'll instruct you. I just like to give them a heads up, and I like to say, but above all, I just want you guys to constantly be moving. I want you guys to really just experience the moment. And that has changed the game so much for me during our portraits, because no longer am I having to direct the couples as much as I normally did, because I could have them just doing a basic hug and I'll remind them, I'll be like, hey, remember when I said to keep moving? Yeah, just do that. And then all of a sudden, the bride will start kind of rubbing the groom's back, or, the groom will start rubbing the bride's arm and things like that. And it just creates money and gorgeousness, and it makes it so authentic and so real. So if you're not doing it already, tell your couples to keep moving, and just do it usually during the Skype call that you do around 30 days before the wedding. Tell them there. And then this is another thing that's just been huge. So I think I know for me, this was a big thing, is that when I first started doing portraits, I got so frustrated that I wasn't where I wanted to be, because I saw so many other filmmakers just crushing it with amazing artistic portraits. But I realized shooting portraits is just like any other skill. So you're not gonna pick up a guitar and be able to play an amazing arrangement in 1 week. It's gonna take time. Like, you're gonna have to practice, and that's all that portraits are. What I found is the more I shoot portraits, the better I get. I know that sounds so elementary, but it really isn't, because the first couple years of doing weddings, I was so frustrated because I'm like, I feel like I'm not relating and things are really hard. That's just because I hadn't been doing it long enough. Of course, this course and everything that you're gonna learn is gonna massively help your learning curve, but one of the best things that you can do to improve your portrait game is intentionally practice every single wedding. So what that means is have a list of poses that you want to do that maybe you haven't figured out how to do perfectly. Try them for this wedding, and then after the wedding, write down what worked, what didn't work. Practice in your home how you're going to direct the couple to get into that pose. Watch these live shoots that we're about to get into and see how I direct the couple, and write down how I talk with them, how I move them from A to B, and practice those things on your next wedding. And one of the best things you can do, because I know oftentimes you're like, man, but David, I wish I had all these cool weddings, but I only have kind of these lame weddings, so I can't practice all this cool stuff I'm about to learn. No worries. The best way to practice is doing free shoots. So what I want you to do, there's no excuse. I want you to pick a couple of your friends and go out to the mountains, or go out to the city, or go out to just an empty field or something cool in your neighborhood and do a free engagement shoot for them. And this is gonna get hard. I want you to do that every month for the next 3 or 4 months. And just by doing that, your posing game is gonna get way better. And there's not this stress of trying to create, this big expensive project you're not getting paid. Just take the couple out for a couple hours right around sunset time and just practice posing, and just tell the couple like, hey, in exchange for you doing this, I'll give you a free little 30-second video for Instagram. So not only do you practice your posing, but you also get cool content to post on Instagram, which is gonna get you more leads for weddings. And it's also gonna help you practice your editing of portraits. So practice, practice, practice. And then this is the last thing, and kind of the general tips of portraits before we get into some other fundamentals, is cadence is massive. So pay attention to how you're talking to the couple during portraits, because I know portrait time is really stressful. So really think through, am I communicating my stress to the couple? Am I like, okay, we gotta move here, and everything's just everywhere? Because if you're talking like that, the couple is gonna start feeling that, and they're gonna start getting all stiff. Or is your cadence very aggressive, like, okay, we're gonna do this and that, and it kind of doesn't stress them out, but it makes them a little uncomfortable with you? Or is your cadence not that confident? You're like, maybe we could do this over here, I don't know, that's gonna make them very unsure. You want your cadence to be clear and confident, and you want them to feel comfortable. You don't want it to be too stressed, you don't want to be too aggressive, you don't want to be too unsure of yourself, because how you talk to the couple is going to make them feel comfortable. It's gonna make your portraits a lot better, which you're gonna notice as we get into live shoots. So that's the first general tip section. Next, I want to talk about working with the photographer, because I know I talked about it in the main course, which is right above here in that hour-long portrait one. But this, I just want to give a couple more pointers that have really helped us lately. So one of the things is let the photographer take over the reins first. So as you start to get into portraits, the first 5 minutes, let the photographer take the couple and just hang back. And during this time, notice what the couple's doing. hey, how does the groom interact with the bride, and what can you learn from that? If the groom is like really tender and sweet with the bride, then you know, okay, cool, I can do these set of poses. Or if you notice, oh man, this couple's a little awkward, maybe I need to start with, a pose that's less artistic and more fun. Maybe I need to start with the groom kind of like running up behind her and tickling her, or maybe them doing funny dance moves, because that's going to really loosen them up. So let the photographer do their thing first. And it also, by doing that, it lets the photographer know, hey, this filmmaker respects me. He's not like jumping in and just taking the reins. He's kind of letting me do my thing first. So that's going to be really helpful. Then the other thing that's really helped with photos and working with a photographer is getting your poses and your moments separate from the photographer's poses and moments. So I know obviously not every wedding you're able to do this, because you only have maybe like 10 minutes and you have to shoot alongside of the photographer. But what I found is letting the photographer do a certain pose, and then right before you sense that the photographer is almost about to be done and going to move to a new location, tell the photographer, hey, I just need a couple minutes to get something for video. Is that okay? And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. If they're not a jerk, most photographers aren't jerks. And what's very important about this is you want to tell them, give me 1 or 2 minutes, because a lot of photographers think video is just like photo, where you can just run into a pose, get a couple shots, and be done. But you need to tell them like, hey, I need to get a few shots. It's going to take a couple minutes. I'll be as fast as I can, because that's going to allow the photographer to be like, oh, okay, I understand. I need to kind of step back and let you do your thing. And by doing that, then you have a couple minutes just with the couple to really get a whole moment happening. So that's going to help a ton. Another thing that's important is when you are doing kind of that thing where you say, hey, can I have a couple minutes? Ask the photographer before you start doing something, or before you move to another location, ask them, hey, Susie, did you, I don't know, Susie's the first thing that came to my mind, but hey, Susie, did you get everything that you needed? That's going to do massive things. Just asking the photographer if they got everything they needed, because that's going to tell them that you really care about them. And when they see that you care about them and their shots, they're going to care about you and your shots. It's really just, I'm going to break it down really simply, but it's going to help you guys so much, is as you're doing portraits, as you're thinking about working with a photographer, think to yourself, okay, how can I love my neighbor as myself? If I were the photographer, how would I like to be treated? Same thing with the couple. If I were the couple, how would I like to be talked to? That's going to answer a lot of your questions in terms of cadence and questions and everything like that, and working with other people. It's just really a great rule for life, but apply it here, it's going to massively change the way you do things. So the last thing is, I just want you guys to realize photographers are not used to working with videographers. So us being videographers, we work with a photographer every single wedding. Photographers, I've talked to photographers who are like, yeah, so we've worked with videographers twice this year, and that's pretty normal. And most of the time, these photographers have really bad experiences with videographers, because what ends up happening is these high-end photographers usually work with couples who think as video as an afterthought, and they get a cheaper videographer, and that creates a bad taste in this photographer's mouth. And then when you arrive, they're expecting you to be just as bad. And so you really got to realize, okay, that's where the photographer is coming from. So I have to be really on my game. I have to kind of blow their mindset in terms of, wow, this is an awesome videographer. But all that being said, because photographers don't work with videographers a lot, you have to be assertive, but you have to be very respectful in your assertiveness. And the reason I say that is because if photographers have worked with video people before, usually their experience with the video people is that, okay, I, being a photographer, get all the things I need, and video kind of just hangs back and they don't really direct the couple or pose the couple. But the style I'm about to teach you guys is very hands-on. So you want to make sure the photographer knows that you need a shot. And so, hey, if the photographer's kind of taking over the portrait session, just really respectfully say, hey, I'm going to need a couple minutes right after you're done here with the bride and groom. Very straight, very to the point. And if they're still shooting over you, be like, hey, can I just really focus on the couple right now? I'll just need you to hang back for a second because it's really important for video. And you just say simple things like that. Most photographers with those 2 lines are going to be really respectful. And most of the time, all you need to do is just tell them what you need at certain points and you'll be fine. But sometimes photographers are an absolute jerk. jerks, and in those moments you have to just be assertive and tell them what you need and move on to the next thing. So those are our tips for working with photographers that have really massively helped us. And if anything else, if you're like, man, I've just been working with a photographer that I can't seem to get on their good side, leave a comment in the Facebook group. I'll get back to you, or ask it in the next coaching call, and we'll kind of go from there. But so that's the photographer section. So this is my 4-step process when it comes to portraits. This has helped me massively. So before every time I shoot portraits, I think in terms of these 4 steps. So the first step is when I'm going to pose the couple, I think of what is the background doing? I have found that if you don't have a good background, that's like the foundation of every good portrait is the background. So first look at the background. Is it epic? Is it cool and minimal? What is it doing? You want the background to be good. Once the background is good, you move to phase 2, and that is what is the light doing? You want to make sure that the light is exactly what you want. Do you want more harsh light? Do you want more soft light? Do you want more dark and moody light? Because that's going to determine where you place the couple. So say I am looking at an epic, landscape. I'm like, cool, background check. Next, I really want the couple to have, some backlight on them or some harsh moody light. Well, let's go with the like direct light. I want the direct light to be on the couple so they really pop from the background. So then I'm thinking, okay, where is that light coming in relation to the background so I know where to place the couple? Then the next thing I think about is the pose. So what basic pose am I going to put the couple in after I figured out the background and the lighting? Okay, so I'm going to have the couple stand side by side to one another holding hands, or maybe they're going to come in for a hug. That's the pose. Then the last thing, and I feel like this is where so many filmmakers don't go the next level, and that is the emotion. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure I got that right. So the first thing is background first, then what is the light doing second, then the pose with the couple, then the emotion. So I'll give you an example of that. You put the couple in a basic pose, say they hug, that's a pose, but there's no emotion involved in that. There's no movement. So once the couple's in the pose, then you could say something like, hey guys, I just want you to be, naturally swaying. Hey, Sarah, I want you to run your hand along his back. I want you guys to think about, as if you're the only people here and you're just really enjoying this moment. And I want you, Ryan, to just sneak in little kisses along her neck, whatever feels right. That's the emotion. That's the heart. That's where you get all the movement. And this is the gem. So we have found that the best way to create emotion during portraits is by playing music. So what we do is we bring along a little speaker or something like that we clip onto our bag, and we play really romantic, kind of intimate music so that the couple's listening to the music and that's inspiring their emotion. So those are the 4 steps. Again, background first, then the lighting, then the posing, then the emotion. And you'll see me go through all those 4 steps in the live shoot. So that's our 4-step process. So here's a couple housekeeping things in terms of cameras, lenses, and shots for portraits. I'll run through these really quick. So first off, we film all our portraits in slow motion because that allows you to slow down everything that you need. And oftentimes, portrait time is really fast. And so it's good to shoot in slow motion so that if you only have 5 minutes for portraits, you can really stretch that 5 minutes in your wedding film. And to do that, I shoot in 60p on our cameras so then I can slow it down in post later. If you have more questions about that, let me know in the Facebook group and I'll help you there. So shoot everything in slow motion. And also, this is really important when it comes to lens choice. You want to vary your lenses. So don't just shoot all of your portraits on a wide angle lens, or don't just shoot all of your portraits on a close angle lens or a telephoto lens, because by shooting some of the portraits on your wider lens, some of your portraits on your telephoto, you're going to have a much wider range of shots to choose from, and it's going to feel a lot hardier when you get into the editing suite because you're going to have all these different angles and focal lengths and things like that. Personally, when I shoot portraits, so I will be on a wider lens and Harmony will be on a closer lens. So we always have that variety of lenses. But if you're shooting by yourself, a great thing to do is to have 2 camera bodies. You could have 1 camera on a wider lens and 1 camera on a closer lens. And you could use something like a hold fast strap. Look that up, I'll put a link below. But it's hold fast camera straps. Search it, it'll allow you to hold 2 cameras at the same time, and you can have one as a close-up lens and one as a wider lens, so it can help you vary it. back and forth. But if you can afford a strap system like that, you could literally just change your lenses from a wide to a tight. It just takes more time. So really important to vary your lenses. And then we shoot most of our portraits on either a monopod or handheld. Personally, I love shooting handheld most of the time because it allows me to really quickly be up here and down here, and I can just get so many different shots and not be constrained to a monopod or a tripod. But if you're shooting using our monopod technique, which works fantastic, and you are using a monopod, that's an excellent way to go. I tend to not want to use a tripod during portraits because it's just so difficult to get the shots that I need. And let's see. Okay, so here's another really helpful thing is during your portraits, in terms of planning out your shots, you want to just plan 1 to 2 epic gimbal shots during portraits. You don't want to try doing all portraits on a gimbal, and you don't want to try to get 30 gimbal shots, because gimbal shots are one of those things that are cool a couple times during the film, but if you just show them over and over again, it kind of gets repetitive. And gimbal shots take time because you got to pull out your gimbal, you got to get it all set up. So every time before a wedding or an engagement shoot, I plan like, what gimbal shots am I going to do? And I get those. So that way I'm not getting distracted doing more than I need to do, and I can just knock them out immediately. And then this is kind of off of that, use your drone sparingly. I love drone shots, but I make sure I only choose to get a drone shot on weddings where I know it's gonna look epic on a drone shot. And for portraits, I don't use a drone a whole ton. And if I do, I just do one shot, I get it done quick, and it's done. Because what I found is, yeah, sure, one epic drone shot is like, whoa, that was amazing. But it takes like 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes to get a drone shot, whereas you could have gotten like 7 different emotional poses within that time and gotten so many more cool shots with the couple. And usually I'm like, man, I would rather just get 7 or like 3 or 4 more poses with the couple rather than get an epic drone shot. So I usually only do drone stuff very sparingly and when I know I have time for it. And then last thing is, if you've been watching this course and going through everything, you know about the 4-shot standard. So all kind of as I go through the live shoot, you're gonna notice us doing the 4-shot standard. I am doing it usually with Harmony. So usually it's me getting 2 shots and Harmony getting 2 shots of the 4-shot standard. And the way that works is Harmony's on a tighter lens and I'm on a wider lens. So I am getting kind of the wide and medium shot of the 4-shot standard as we're shooting portraits, and Harmony is getting the super close-up and kind of super close-up shots and the medium close-up shots on her tighter lens. So together, we make up the 4-shot standard. But if you're by yourself, you kind of just got to keep in mind during portraits, okay, I got to get those 4 shots. And oftentimes, you know, you can get 5 shots or 6 shots because portraits are one of those times where you're kind of just popping around and getting various different shots as the couple's listening to music. So just make sure you get around that 4-shot standard, but it doesn't have to be like a hard, fast rule, as you'll see as we go into the live shoot. So that's just a couple tips as it comes to cameras, lenses, and shots. Okay, so when I'm thinking about portraits, I'm always thinking about kind of 4 categories, because usually when I did portraits before, I was kind of just like, oh, I'm gonna do like a bunch of these type of things, and then I would leave, or I'd kind of come back to the editing room and I'd only have like intimate portraits, or I'd only have adventurous type of portraits, or I'd only have fun ones. Whereas now what I try to do is when I shoot portraits, I try to get them in these 4 categories. So one is the intimate category, the second is the adventurous category, the third is the fun, kind of exciting, joyous category, and then the fourth is the more artistic category. So I'm gonna try to run through my favorite poses in every single one of those categories, and there's a lot. So I don't expect you guys to use every single one of these poses at every single one of your weddings. It's more to give you guys inspiration and to help you guys figure out, okay, this is how I can actually get a couple to do these things. My goal for you is that you pick 1 to 2 of these poses in each category and then set out to get those poses at your next wedding or your next elopement. Now I will say, if you're doing an elopement, like when we do elopements, we tend to use all the poses in every category because we have like 4 or 5 hours with the couple. But usually for a wedding, you only have 30 minutes, so you have to pick and choose. And so the first category I want to start with is the intimate category. Now I have a few poses in there. We're going to start with our first one, which is the moment. And this one's really, really cool. So I have Harmony's phone here, or usually my phone, whoever has the most battery usually. But I love doing this pose, and this pose, I just tell the couple to kind of have a moment together, and I bring over the phone and I say, hey, we're gonna play some music, and I just want you guys to get in really close and really listen to the music and just kind of take it away. And as they're doing that, I'm kind of giving them little just, hey, maybe you can do this, or like, I loved how you did that, do that again. And I'm roaming around them and just letting them kind of experience the music, because then it gets real, authentic moments happening. It's not super posy. So that's the first shot we're gonna do, and you can see how I set it up. Let's do it. This is gonna be a kind of a cuddly one, so hopefully you'll be able to warm each other up. Alrighty, so you guys will just face each other and just kind of like come in close, like just start with a hug. Ah, perfect. Okay, so I'm sure you heard me over there, but I'm gonna tell you. Anyways, so I'm gonna play some music, and I'm just gonna, actually, can I put this in your jacket pocket? Yes. Cool, so I'm gonna play it, and we're gonna turn it up. So it'll be going, and you guys just kind of be listening to the music, and I want you guys to kind of be moving, and you know, Allie, I kind of want like your hand behind his head, and kind of just, you know, like kind of just rubbing it here, and then you'll be like, it sounds weird as I describe it. It sounds like really weird, but like, and Christian, you'll kind of be, you know, just running your hand, you know, across her back or like along her shoulder, just trying to make her feel warm and like loved, and just kind of take it away. And I might like shout a couple things, but main thing is pretend like I'm not here, right. And you guys are just having an epic date in the middle of Joshua Tree with cameras filming you. Sweet. What I'm gonna start with is my wide shots. Come in a little closer. Awesome. Yeah, so Christian, how about you put your foot in there? Perfect, and just get in nice and close, yeah. So I had them kind of get in a little closer, because this always works better the closer that couples are. I love it, guys. See, what's so awesome about this is you notice that they're just doing all the little amazing things, and I'm not telling them anything, and it just allows me to take my time and to shoot. So now I'm gonna go in for kind of a more medium shot. You guys are doing great. Dang, the wind looks so cool. Oh, Christian, I love that. Kind of keep moving your hand through her hair and kind of giving her little kisses. Oh, awesome. Perfect. And I'm always trying to focus in on their hands. What are their hands doing? Those are like the most emotive parts of these poses, is focusing on the hands. So I'm gonna get one more kind of shot with my wider lens, and then I'm gonna go in with my 45 and get all those little details. All right, awesome, guys. Allie, keep running your hand up and down his arm, just starting from the bottom, going all the way up. Oh, this is so good. And then run that hand up again. Awesome. Cool, so now I'm gonna transition to my 45 millimeter to get all those little details. You guys doing good? Uh-huh. Okay, cool. Just wanna make sure you're not like freezing your butt off.
Are you good? Yeah, I'm actually not too bad.
Okay, okay, keep doing that, guys. I'm just looking for where their hands are and trying to follow them. Allie, how about you kind of run your arm right here, or your hand up and down there. Perfect. And just keep doing that over and over again, just kind of warming them up. Pull her in close, Christian, just kind of really snuggle her up. Perfect. And so this whole time I'm hunting for all those little, just like those little moments, the little hands moving. I'm trying to get a bunch of close-ups of those. Perfect. And now I'm moving up to their faces. And Allie, I want you to kind of put your hand behind his head. Yes. Woo, Dang. So good. Okay, I'm gonna keep doing that, guys. Doing great. And just heads together, just listening to that music. Ali, I want you to put your hand behind his head, just kind of stroking it. Yes. Just listen to the music, eyes closed. Kind of stroke her hair again, Christian. Yeah. Killing it, guys. So normally during a wedding or something like that, I would have a little less time, but if you notice, they're just doing everything for you, which is really, really cool. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to notice the things that they naturally do that look really, really cool, and then have them repeat them. So I noticed that Christian kind of tucked her, Allie's hair behind her ear. It's like, oh, that looks so cool. And I told him, hey, how about you do that again? Or I'm kind of looking for the things that they naturally do and just have them repeat them so they're a lot more natural. And when I'm in there with the 45mm lens, I'm just hunting. I don't exactly know per se the exact shots I'm hunting for, but I know that, okay, I know the hands always look cool. So I'm trying to focus on Ali kind of bringing up her hand on his arm, or him kind of tucking the hair behind the ear, or I always know that kind of coming over here above them looks really, really good, and I can focus in on Christian's face as, you know, Ali kind of like touches his cheek and the back of his head, and then I can go on the reverse side and focus on her and just all the cool little hair movements that are just happening with the wind right now, and kind of Christian tucking his hand behind her head and just all those little things. So those are what I'm looking for. I'm always looking at what are their hands doing, what are kind of their eyes doing, where are they looking, and how can I create little tiny moments within all that. I want you guys to hold hands. Perfect. Actually, just one set of hands. So the one facing me. Yeah, there you go. And then kind of come in again a little bit. Perfect. And I want you guys to bring your hands kind of up to your chest like this. And a more like
this.
Like against Christian's heart like that. Yeah, perfect. What I actually want you guys to do is kind of like play with each other's hands. Yeah. Having the couple just kind of like play with their hands and move them around gives a cool little moment that you can intercut into another, you know, the other moment with them together, and it's just another little flair piece that you can use in this moment pose. Awesome, guys. Perfect. Oh, this is so good. And I'm always focusing on just like anything that's flowing. So I notice the wind of her shirt is flowing, and I'm trying to get just those little details because I know I can cut those in with something else. Oh, that's so cool. And I'm coming in, just trying to get different angles of the close-up, what they're doing with their hands. And I'm gonna focus in one more time on their faces. I like focusing on the mouths because it's just really, really cool. I know now they're all self-conscious about I'm filming their mouths. Don't think about it. Going for a kiss, guys. Oh, I love it. It's always a really cool moment. And also I like to kind of just do a push in where I'm like coming out of focus, into focus. Just creates this really cool vibe. And I can do that with so many of the little details, because when I play it back in slow motion, it's gonna look amazing. And I do that the same over here. very just dreamlike look. Ah, that's amazing. Okay, so that is the moment pose, and it's my absolute favorite. It's my go-to at every single wedding because if you notice, you can get so many different varieties of shots. And in that moment, again, just to recap, the kind of things that you want in your tool bag to have the couple do to kind of like pull out while they're having their little moment is have the bride run her hand, you know, up the groom's arm, have her put her hand right behind the groom's head and just kind of rub his head back and forth. And you can kind of demonstrate it. I find this is really helpful to show rather than just say, because they can get an idea of what they're supposed to be doing. And then also another thing is have the groom kind of tuck the bride's hair behind her ear and just put their heads together. All those little things that you heard me yell, like just not yelling, but you heard me saying are great little things that you could be ready for in that moment in the close-up, and then you can get that shot exactly. So I usually, the way I set this up is I'll tell the photographer, hey, can you just give me like a minute and a half? I'm gonna play some music. I just want the couple to have a little quiet time, and then I get this pose, and it's one of my favorites. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next pose that fits into that intimate category is the hug. I love the hug. You could have the most awkward couple in the world, and this always looks good. It's like my go-to. They're not awkward at all. They're actually amazing. But this is one of my go-tos. I do it at every wedding. It's usually what I start with because it's so easy. Even if you've been doing weddings for, is this your first wedding, you can pose someone in this pose. Or if you've been doing weddings for 10 years, it still looks good. So let me show you what that pose looks like. So guys, I just want you to come on in, and you're gonna go in for a hug. Ah, so cute. And see, they just killed it. I mean, obviously this is like an above average couple and they're just like amazing. But say the couple doesn't do that, like I want you guys to pretend to be like really awkward, kind of like coming in, like just like, okay, so most people don't hug like that, but if, say they're like the most awkward couple, this is what I have them do. So Allie, I just want you to lean your head right here against his chest, perfect, and kind of come in a little bit, awesome. I love having the bride facing me, especially backlit, because then I can focus on her face right here, I can focus on her ring. It gives me an opportunity to have her do something. She can run her arm up and down, his arm, and I can get a couple shots. Let me show you what that looks like. All right, so starting in with my wide shot. Okay, starting with my wide shot, obviously exposure is horrible right now, so I need to adjust that. Let's see, gotta get the sun out of my way. There it is. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I gotta get the car out, but this is an instructional video, so maybe we just show the car. Perfect. Awesome. So what I noticed right there is Allie was giving me eyes, which looked amazing. So Allie, just give me those eyes again. Yes. I love how she's keeping the hand moving. This is amazing. And that light coming in is just beautiful. And we're coming a little closer. Awesome. So then I'm gonna come in right here and just focus on her hand. Oh, this is so pretty. Kind of playing with that light, just letting it peek through. If you notice, I'm not really telling her to do much. I just gave her that initial instruction at the beginning, and she's just repeating it over and over, and it's amazing. And get that little light coming through. Oh, perfect. And then Allie, give me those eyes again. Yes. Get a little smize. There it is. And then just eyes closed. So if you notice, this is it's so basic, but it looks absolutely beautiful. And I always like to throw in little variations, like have the bride give me eyes, have the bride get a couple shots that way, then have the bride close her eyes. And whenever I'm doing this, I'm like, hey, just run that arm along the groom's arm. It always looks good. The next pose that I like to do with couples is the slow dance. Now this is another one kind of like the moment that just works really well when you're kind of stuck and you're like, man, I can't think of anything to do, but I want something really cool and artistic. It's the slow dance, and the way it works is this. All right guys, so I'm just gonna have you guys slow dance, so you could kind of move around. We're gonna play some music, and you know, Christian, I want you to give her a couple spins, bring her in. I kind of want you guys moving around, and you're slow dancing, and I'm just filming you guys doing it. Normally we have music, but the phone's dead. And you can kind of do so many different shots with this. Like that silhouette is just jamming. So good. Perfect. And then I'm coming in for something more right there, close up. How about you give her a spin? Oh, guys, this looks insane. That sun behind you, it's like all the clouds. It's gnarly. Bam, and so you saw just like that, we have a moment, and it was so easy, and you didn't have to direct, you didn't really have to do anything, and they just fall in it naturally. And kind of the same idea with the moment that we did before. If you do, say, the slow dance instead of the moment, they kind of naturally get in kind of that moment pose where they eventually end up close together and they're just swaying, and then you can toss out a couple things like, hey, you know, run your hand across his back, or like Christian tuck her hair behind her ear and things like that. So they're kind of interchangeable, but those are two ideas that I love to do. So the last pose in that intimate section of poses is kisses along the neck. Now I want to show you how that works. All right, so Christian, I'm gonna have you go behind her. Allie, you're gonna kind of face me. Perfect. And then can you put your hair on your right-hand side of your face? Awesome. And then Christian, you're just gonna kind of like tuck in behind her, give her, give her a nice hug. Cool. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna just go from kind of like right behind her ear, and then slowly make your way down her neck, and then Allie, you're just gonna kind of turn in and just love it and feel it and be like, oh my gosh, I'm freezing, like this is the best thing ever. So I love filming this on a 45 because I feel like it feels so intimate, and it's more of an intimate pose, and it works really well. All right, and go ahead. Dang! So good, guys. Just keep doing that. Awesome, guys. Focusing on the hands, just getting all those little details. Perfect. And then I'm gonna come in even tighter. Keep doing that, guys. I love the wind. Awesome. Just kind of close your eyes, Ellie. Just, you guys are the only people here. Perfect. Love it, guys. Keep doing that. Get a little more wider shot. Perfect. Awesome. And focusing on the hands. And so bam, killed it, guys. Awesome. Christian's getting really into it over there. He's like, oh man, my nose is cold, but I also like this, like burrowing in. It's good, good times. You see those shots in films and you think, man, like those couples must have been actors, or you know, the filmmaker must have directed them in some insane way to get them to have such an intimate moment. But it's really simple. Couples are already so in love on the wedding day or during an engagement shoot that you just need to give them permission to show that love. And when they do it, it looks natural, it looks amazing, and it looks like you're this incredible director, whereas you're really just giving them permission to be themselves. And this is one of the best poses that I know to do that just lets them do that. Yeah, how about you guys go walk over to that rock? So I just gave the couple something to do to go walk over, and usually I'll do that at weddings, but then I'm following them just kind of behind, trying to get another intermediate shot that kind of fits more in the adventure category. Because it would be cool to have you like leading her
Okay.
up. If there's, yeah, how about you guys just try to get up there and then I can kind of see what it looks like. Okay, so this fits a little more into the adventure category. I always like to find some sort of structure in the portrait area I'm shooting on, whether that be a rock or a little hill or something where it's just like, whoa, that looks epic and adventurous, and I like to have the groom leading her up that structure. Let's do it. Okay guys, how about you go? Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna have the couple do it again. Always with these adventure shots, I have them do it like 3 or 4 times because it gives me so much to pull from, and I'm kind of trying to get the last bit of light, get this adventurous, epic wide shot. All right, go ahead, guys. Oh, see, look how cool. It just looks so adventurous. He's looking back at her. Think of what else can I have them do to just grab a couple more shots out of their final destination. So what we decided to do was have them face out to their sun, because I'm always looking at, you know, where is the light hitting? How can it illuminate their face the best? And it just looks so rad right now. We're trying to catch the last bit of light. Awesome, guys, so cool. And both of you guys just look out. Yeah, I wanted them both to look out because I noticed they were kind of in the shadows, and now they're at the sun, and I want to add some movement, so I'm going to be like, hey, Christian, can you just kiss like her shoulder? There we go. Love it. Kiss her temple as well, just kind of like along her whole neck. Yeah, awesome. And kind of add some movement. Christian, kind of run your left hand up and down her arm. There it is. See, I noticed it was a little stiff, so just adding a little bit of those movement cues draws a lot more attention. All right, cool. So I'm gonna have you guys walk down. That was awesome. Okay, so this, again, this falls in kind of that adventure category of the groom leading the bride up something really, really cool and adventurous. So what I always like to do with these is my first go at it. Whew, I'm out of breath. I just ran through the desert. Okay, my first go at it, I focus on the wide shots. Then I have the couple do it again, and I'm focusing on the close-ups because, again, at 4-shot standard, I want a couple wide shots, maybe 1 to 2, and then I want a couple close-ups of their hands. So usually what I'm doing is I'm following right behind the couple and kind of getting their hands as they're walking up, because I know I can intercut that with the wider shot. So let me show you what that means. Okay guys, so let me just kind of get my positioning. I always like shooting backlit if I can, because it just lets their hands pop. How about you guys start walking? And I'm not getting too close because I kind of want to see the environment. Awesome. All right, cool, and stop, guys. So I'm just gonna kind of reposition myself. All right, and go for it. Ah, so cool. And then while they're up there, I'm noticing there's kind of a cool sunset going on. So I'm see if I can get like a silhouette. And there's our silhouette shot, and you got the wind moving it. Oh, it's so pretty. Wondering, can you guys walk up to that spot? Just not go all the way down, but just like halfway and then walk up. So what I noticed was the silhouette looked really cool. So I just want to have the silhouette of them going up. It's gonna look rad. Here we go. They're coming up. Money. I chose specifically this spot because as you see, the mountains come together and they're right in the middle, and you got that sunset. So yeah, when you're doing the more adventure things, I started with the basic groom leading bride up there, but then I noticed, hey, that sunset looks really cool, and it kind of sparked a whole new set of shot ideas. And sometimes my best portraits come when I just get a burst of inspiration, but I always start with that initial shot because oftentimes you just get paralyzed. Like, I don't know what to do with the couple. Well, use some of these prompts. Be like, oh, I know David said that the groom leading the bride up somewhere cool looks awesome. Start with that. Try to get your 4-shot standard, but then keep your mind open for what kind of cool thing that I didn't think of, like that sunset, that I can do, because that's going to help inspire you and get some of your best, most artistic shots. What I love to do is the couple walking, but the way I like to make it a little more interesting and artistic is I'm going to actually have you guys walking separately. So Christian will kind of be leading a little bit like that, and then Allie, you guys kind of just be weaving. So you'll kind of be walking this way, Allie, and then you'll kind of walk that way, and then you guys are just kind of meandering to the road. And so as they're doing that, I'm just trying to pick out little shots, little moments, and I love to do that when the bride has a bouquet too, because she'll have it on the side of her body right here, and then she's kind of just moving it and walking, and it's a really cool moment. But it also works for this. So go ahead, guys. Perfect. And come together. Awesome. And this just looks super adventurous and cool. And I'm gonna have you guys go in with your hands and hold hands together. Perfect. Awesome. And then you're just walking towards that road. And then I'm coming in when they're doing that and trying to get close-ups of their hands. I try to really use this walking time, get their feet, because there's so many little shots you can get. Kind of come in here. Oh man, that looks so cool. And then I'm even thinking, oh, can I get a cool silhouette of this? I can. Oh, look at that. Just always thinking, how can I get my wide, medium, and tight in really creative ways? There it is. Dang, look at that. And I'm kind of just letting them do their thing, and they're killing it. All right, so brief commercial break here on this whole moment that I got. I just want to really show you guys how many shots that I got, and that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. When you have the couple walking like this, really milk it. I mean, this was probably a 1-minute moment, but I got them walking, and then I got, a closer shot of them walking, and then more shots of them walking, and every single angle you'll notice is slightly different, so that in the editing room I have so many different options. Then I got close-ups of their hands, and then I got their feet, and then I got a wide shot. Most filmmakers would stop here. They'd be like, I got more than enough, which is the case. You got so much of them walking, but I always think, how can I get even more? That's what you want to be thinking every time you're doing portraits, is how can I just get even more that I can use during the edit? Because I really believe some of the best films I've made are when I just go that extra mile and try that extra creative thing. So here I'm like, can I get a whole nother sequence? I can shoot the same thing in silhouette version. So bam, silhouette there, another silhouette here, and then a final closing silhouette. And if I had just stopped here, I wouldn't have gotten these kind of really rad other cool shots. So I just want to close out this section saying, make sure to shoot more than you think you need. All right, so kind of in that fun, joyous category, this is a pose I really like to do, and I don't have an official name for it. It's more like the laugh out loud or best friends or something like that. And I know. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Now this one's one of my favorite if, you know, to kind of like loosen the couple up, if you feel like things are getting a little stiff, I always throw this one in. Okay guys. Okay, so what I'm going to have you guys do is stand side by side. All right, actually I'm going to have Christian, you put your arm around her.
Okay.
And then you can kind of like put your arm around him. And then what you guys are going to do is you're going to like slowly bump your hips together and then speed it up and speed it up and speed it up until like, you know, you guys just start laughing, or like you could throw in a little tickles in there and things like that. Cool? Okay, hold on and go for it, guys. And faster and faster and faster. And then I want you guys holding your arms. This is another one I like to do, is you guys will be holding your hands this way, facing each other. And then you're gonna, yes. And come in and go for some tickles. I always like to run around, just want to feel really playful. Awesome. Allie, you know his ticklish spots. Get him. I don't know if he is ticklish. He's one of those.
He's not.
Awesome. And this is kind of all fits within that joyous section. And another one I like to do to get the joy and the laughter, because so many films these days are so serious. You need some heart. Allie, I'm going to have you stand right in front of me. And then Christian, you're going to walk like 5 or 6 feet away. And then what you're gonna do is you're just gonna come behind her, grab her, kind of spin her around, and then just have a fun moment with the whole thing. You can kind of, what tends to work good is picking her up right under like her butt and like lifting. It's a little easier. Whatever's easier for you.
Ready?
All right, and go for it. Yes! Oh, so good! I'm just coming in here. Perfect. Okay, and you're gonna do that again, and I'm just gonna be a little closer this time. Was that okay? Did your back break? You good?
No, that's fine. Did it look, I don't
No,
know
it looked
how
great.
was.
It looked great. It looked great. All right, Christian, you're gonna come in on one. Or on one, that works too. Oh, see, this is amazing.
That's awesome.
See, it's so cool. Like if you notice, a lot of these portraits, I try to keep direction kind of to a minimal. I mean, look at all that movement and just awesomeness they just did. It was just all them. And you just give couples permission to have fun, to be intimate, to do what they want to do anyways. Couples don't necessarily want to pose. They want to just like have fun together. So let them have fun together. All right, guys. So we are in a forest now versus Joshua Tree, which you saw like a second ago. And that's because it got a little dark and we weren't able to kind of fit everything in. So we're doing some more stuff in the forest to show you some of our different poses that we do. I'll show you how we're working with a photographer who's going to be Harmony. She's going to be taking photos. And what I want to show you for this one, because I wasn't able to show it in Joshua Tree, what I always try to look for is, I don't know if you can see it through the video right now, but there's this dappled light on the floor. So if you notice, there's kind of shaded parts and then parts where the light's coming in. So oftentimes filmmakers get really scared to put couples in direct light because they're like, oh, direct light looks so bad, but it's one of my favorite things to do for portraits. And I look specifically for that dappled light, and then I put the couple in the actual light. So the light's on their face, they're not backlit. And it just creates this really, really artistic vibe. Like if you want to take your portraits to the next level and cause someone to like look at it and be like, whoa, that looks really artistic, start playing with direct light even more. So the pose that we're doing right now falls into the artistic category, which is one I haven't talked a whole lot about, but that's the fourth category in the kind of portrait categories. And in this category, what I'm mainly looking for is, kind of those poses that you might be a little scared to do. They're not they're not really your bread and butter ones, but you see something on Instagram, you're like, oh, that pose is so cool, so creative, I'm just gonna try it. And I always like to do 1 or 2 of those every wedding or every portrait shoot because it just pushes me outside of my kind of comfort zone and allows me to get things that I'm like, man, that is so cool. So this, we're gonna be doing some more artistic category poses. I'll show you a couple of my favorites and we're gonna be doing it in this direct light. So let's come over here. Hello, lovely couple. So if you can see how the light, how about you guys kind of look that way? So if you notice, the light is just coming directly on their faces, but it looks so cool. And what I'm always looking for with that direct light is, if you notice on Allie's face right here, I'm gonna get a little close up, you have the shadow right here on her, her jawline and across her nose, and then the sun is coming right here on the right side. And you always want to look for kind of that shadow that the sun is creating because it looks super cinematic. And on Christian's face as well, you're getting what we call Rembrandt light. So if you notice, his left eye is in the sun, and then everything else has a shadow to it, and that creates so much depth and so much contrast and makes things look a lot more cinematic. And one of my favorite poses to do when the couple is in this direct light is, see, Christian, I'm gonna have you step outside and just show. All right, so I'll put the bride, or Allie in this case, right here, and then Christian, I want you to just come behind her and just kind of give her a hug how you normally give her a hug from behind. So go ahead. Perfect, awesome. And so in this, I want to make sure that both their faces are in the sun. So I'm gonna have Christian kind of just go to right there. So now we can see his face a little bit more, even more. Awesome. And then just naturally, Allie kind of like has her arms crossed and she's touching Christian's hand, and it's just perfect. And you don't really have to have them doing a whole lot. That just looks really, really cool because the light is perfectly on their face. And so now we're gonna shoot it a little bit, show you what I'm talking about. And guys, you're just looking out like you were. Awesome. Oh, this looks so good, guys. Perfect. Allie, how about you, with your left hand, kind of just be moving your hair down, like kind of touching it from the top and then moving it down as you're looking out. Perfect. Oh, I love that. So this just helps add a little bit of movement there. And Christian, how about with your right hand, you're just kind of like rubbing her arm right there. Awesome, yeah, that's it, guys. Awesome, guys, that looks so good. I'm gonna come in here. Oh, this looks so cool. Christian looks so epic in the back. He's got like the shadows look so cool. All right, just keep doing that, guys. Love it. And Christian, how about you give her a kiss on the shoulder? Perfect. And keep moving that hair, Allie. Awesome. And you guys are just kind of swaying, add a little bit of movement back and forth. I love it, guys. And then both of you guys looking out again. And then Allie with that hair one more time. Yeah. Then oftentimes what I like to do is just add a little bit of movement. So I'm going to back up and kind of push in as they do that. And Allie, just keep playing with your hair. Bam. How many do you have? The 45? So here really quick, I just want to take a pause and say the reason I switched lenses. I actually switched lenses to a tighter lens here because I'm shooting all by myself, so I don't have Harmony there with me. And this is a really, really good example if you're a solo shooter. So I first got my wide shots with the couple. I was kind of on a 17mm lens, which is a 35mm equivalent. And now I'm switching to a tighter lens, like the 45mm lens, which is an 85mm equivalent, because I'm shooting all by myself. So I got to get those two different focal lengths. And if you notice, right after I make that switch, I'm doing some small talk with the couple. Now, I really want to talk about the importance of small talk. It is so important to not just be posing the couple the entire time. You want to make them feel comfortable. And we had actually filmed with them in Joshua Tree, which you saw. So I was talking about, oh man, isn't it so nice that it wasn't as cold as it was in Joshua Tree? And I'm just saying kind of random stuff, but it allows them to see me as a person and not this random robot that's just directing them. And it really breaks the tension and allows my shots later on to be that much better because they're more comfortable with me and with the whole process. All right, let's get back into it. So much better now that it's not freezing. I feel like I can think. Yeah. Like before I was like, oh, and move, and and then by the end we all had like snot coming out, our noses are all red. It was a sight to see.
That day I was just on the couch all day.
Yeah, he was so sick.
I was like, why?
Army's like, why? You wasting time? Watching movies?
Army's like, I'm not surprised.
Oh my gosh, Armin's so judgmental. All right, so we're gonna be doing that again. And let's see. Christian, you just, yeah, there you go, perfect. So yeah, just same thing you guys are doing again, playing with your hair. And Christian going for the kiss on the shoulder. Kind of give it a little sway. You guys do the sway so well. They're just like, oh yeah, sway. Sway. All right, keep doing that, guys. Love it. Oh, that is so cool. Keep doing that, Allie. Just playing with your hair. So if you notice, I'm just coming in here for all the little details. Just any other little things I can think about. So if you notice, we kind of started out that pose and I kind of got them in the initial pose, but as I was shooting, I was like, oh, it looks a little stiff, so I want to add some movement. So I didn't try to do all the movement tips at the same time. I kind of gradually did it. So first, if you notice, I was like, hey, Allie, just start playing with your hair. So that was the first thing. And then it looked super cool. It added just a little bit more, but I noticed Christian in the back was just a little bit stiff. So I was like, hey, just to loosen him up, how about you kiss her on the shoulder? And if you notice when he did that, they kind of got a little more relaxed. And I was like, can I take it to one more level? And I just say, hey, how about you guys just sway a little bit? And with the sway, with the kiss, with her doing her hair, all those three things together and the light, it was just money. So keep those in mind. Like those are things that always work. The bride or the girl kind of playing with her hair, that always works. It's super easy to communicate, adds a lot of movement. Second thing is having the groom come behind and just kiss her on the shoulder. It's so natural because he has to be hugging her to do that. He has to kind of burrow in, and it just causes them to kind of relax. And the final kind of tip for adding movement is swaying. I love swaying because there's something about it that kind of reminds the couple as if they're dancing, and they kind of add their own little flares to it of maybe burrowing in, or it's just a really cuddly thing to say, hey, how about you just sway? And you'll notice if you just add that little swaying thing to most of your poses, it'll make them 10 times better. And so another really cool thing is we're shooting right now, and it's not the worst time of day to shoot. It's not noon, but it's not the best. It's still like, we're still waiting for golden hour, but we're still shooting. So it still is possible to shoot in harsh light. And like I said before, you just look for little shaded areas that has dappled light, and you can do stuff like we're doing now. Or I could even put the couple in the shade and not have that harsh light on their face. And that's how you shoot in more harsh conditions. And right now, Harmony, being the photographer, is shooting photos of the couple. And say if this was a wedding setting, I would do my video thing, and then it'd be like, hey, photographer, do you need anything else? And they usually do, and I let them do their thing, and I'm not there like crouching behind them every second. I'm kind of letting her shoot them. And even right now, as I'm looking, I'm noticing what the couple's doing as the photographer shooting them, because it allows me as a filmmaker to be like, oh, like, that's something natural that they do together, and I'm gonna be taking notes of that so that when I'm doing portraits with them later, I know what they're more natural doing. And it just gives me time to rest and to think while the photographer's shooting, so I can think of the next thing that I wanna do. All right, well, let's do our next pose. All right, so here's another one in that adventure category that I just love. And this is them walking, but a little twist on that in that I have the groom put his arm around her and they're kind of like really close together. And I have them kind of saunter as I'm right in front of them. So let me show you how I set that up. All right, guys, so we're just gonna be walking, like I said. And Christian, how about you throw your arm around him? Around her, sorry. And Allie, you'll throw your arm around him. Perfect. And what you guys are gonna be doing is I'm gonna be walking back and you're just like cuddling and talking, and Allie, you're kind of laughing as you turn into his chest, and it's not like a straight walk, it's kind of gonna be just a meander out in that distance.
Okay.
All right, I'll let you know when. And then hopefully I don't trip. So, and go for it, guys. And we're laughing. Awesome. Oh. Perfect. Perfect. A little more laughs, guys, and turning into each other. Yeah, there it is. Oh, I knew you guys loved each other. Perfect. Awesome. So one of the last things that we do, or that I really like to do in the adventure section, is have the groom spin the bride. It's just so easy, such an easy pose to do. And what we noticed is as we were kind of walking out to the valley, we saw these two awesome trees and this was really white background. We thought, oh, that'd be perfect for a silhouette. And one of my favorite types of lighting situations to do that twirl in is a silhouette, because sometimes a twirl can be a little cheesy. Like, I know you think of like, oh, twirling the girl, sometimes that it's a little Cinderella-y. But when you do that in a silhouette, it always looks a lot better, a lot less cheesy, and really artistic in my opinion. And I always shoot it in slow motion. So we have the couple up there, have the groom twirl her, and then what I also like to do is say, hey, you know, when you twirl her, kind of do it a couple times and then bring her in for a kiss. And that always just adds that other layer of movement. And then what's really cool is having him bring her in for a kiss, it gives you some more shot opportunities. So you could get the twirl in the wide shot, and then you can go in for a closer shot and get kind of the kiss shot, and then you can get them kind of like swaying back and forth in a close-up, and it's all of a sudden a whole sequence out of one twirl. So that's kind of the twirl that we do in the adventure section. And again, where I always like to do it is where there's a really cool overlook, or it's near sunset time, or in a silhouette. So that's the twirl, and if you're not using it, you should, because it's so easy. All right, guys, so I'm gonna have you, Christian, you're just gonna sit down right here, and then Allie, you're gonna come right in between his legs, right there. Perfect. Just take your time. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now you're just gonna lean back into him. Love it. Perfect. Just cuddle up, guys. Yes. Awesome. Perfect, perfect. Love it. Okay, so we're on this epic hill, and this kind of falls into that artistic pose category where you get the couple sitting down. Now this one doesn't always work, because sometimes the bride's dress just isn't conducive to that, or you're not able to find that perfect spot. So this is not a pose that I like do all the time. It's kind of, again, in that artistic section where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna try it, see if it works. In this case, it really worked. I mean, the light is just coming through so perfectly. And what I noticed is when I was first shooting them, I was like, I feel like, you know, you see in movies or Gladiator or something where you have the long, tall things of grass and the camera's like in the grass and it provides some awesome foreground, and then you see the subject walking through the grass. I wanted to create that, but the grass isn't tall enough. And so most people just be like, oh, I guess I can't do that. But a cool trick is what you do is you actually take some of the grass in your fingers and you shoot on a little bit of a closer lens. So this is a 45, And what I did is I just brought the grass in just barely. You don't want to cover the whole lens, but you bring it in just to the side, and it looks like I'm shooting through tall grass, but I'm just holding it. It's kind of hard because you want to make sure not to shake and things like that, but you can see in the shot it just creates such a beautiful effect that just adds that necessary depth that you need. And also when they were sitting there, I wanted to add just a little bit of movement, and I noticed, again, you know, like what we talked about before, is just the bride moving her hand through her hair looks so good, so I just had her do that again. And then what I noticed is when Christian went down to kiss her on her shoulder, he kind of blocked her face, which I didn't really want. So instead I was like, oh, how can I get some movement without him coming all the way down? And I was like, oh, he could like kiss her temple. And so that was perfect, and it provided the movement that we needed, but it didn't block her face, so you could see both of them. And so this is a pose that I love to do, and what I like to do is I like to vary it with kind of starting with a wider shot. So I started this whole pose sequence with a 17 millimeter shooting them, and then what then I switched to was the 45, and I got those really, really good close-ups, and I'm even gonna get, I think, a couple more. So I'm gonna get a wider shot with the 45 just to see what it looks like, and that's something you guys can do. So I know there's that 4 to 5 shot standard, but sometimes I do, like, if I have the time, I'll do 7 or 8 shots. I'll get like 3 or so quick shots with the 17 and be like, okay, cool. I wonder what it would look like if I threw on the 45, a totally different lens, and just tried those same wide, medium, and tight, because oftentimes what you'll find is if you're kind of getting in a creative rut and you're like, I don't know what to do here, just throw on a different lens and do those same kind of 3 to 4 shots, wide, medium, and tight, and you're gonna get a totally different vibe, and you'll probably get some stuff that you wouldn't have even thought of with a wider lens. So it's important to vary. Okay, so this is one of those other artistic poses that I like to do. And this one's a little bit different, and I love shooting this one backlit. It's always money when you shoot it backlit. And you have the groom stand facing the opposite direction of you, and then you have the bride come up and cuddle right on his arm and look at you, or have her head leaning against his shoulders facing you. And I like to do a couple variations as I'm shooting this. So I start off with either the bride looking directly at the camera in a wider shot, and while I'm in that shot, I do a couple variations with her. So I'll have her close her eyes and kind of just move her hand up and down the groom's arm, or I'll have her look at the camera, or have her smile. And it's always good to get just a bunch of those other little texture things, so you don't know which one's gonna look the best. Sometimes the bride looking at the camera looks awesome. Sometimes her smiling, or if you notice she's feeling a little awkward in that pose, a good thing to do is just reset and have her close her eyes and just focus on, you know, kind of being in the moment. You could say, hey, you know, listen to just the sounds of nature, the crickets chirping, or the birds, or whatever it is, or the wind, and then you can try the smile and the open eyes again, and then I'll go in for my different close-ups. And this one's kind of a variation of that one I showed in Joshua Tree, where she's kind of leaning up against his chest and looking at the camera, but this one just has a little bit of a creative spin where, you know, you kind of see the groom's back, and it is just a little bit different. And this is another one of those in that artistic category that I just love. So another thing in that artistic category is the bride standing alone by herself. I love to kind of get very creative things with her when she's just standing alone. And if you noticed, there's just, well, I noticed there's some wind out here, and I love having the bride kind of stand either where the wind's blowing behind her or to the side of her. And I love just getting kind of her hair being backlit and the wind coming through, and getting a couple shots there of either her bringing her hand through her hair or whipping her hair back and forth, or there's just so many little texture options to do when the bride is alone and you have awesome light. So that's another thing that's in that artistic category that I don't always do, but I try to do, because brides usually want individuals of them that look really good. Okay, so one of the final artistic shots that I get is having the bride, or, you know, if it's an engagement, having the girl stand by herself, and she's kind of like playing with her hair or doing something, and then I have the groom walk up right behind her and just give her a hug and kind of kiss her along her neck or right on her shoulder. It adds some really cool fun movement, and I'll often get a wide of that and a close of that. And what I'm also always looking for is, we're up on this hill and the sun is setting in different spots,
and there was just this really awesome spot where there's a trail coming down, and I'm always looking for those epic walking shots of the groom leading the bride or the bride even leading the groom, and I'm always looking at where is the light shining, like what direction is the light shining, and I noticed it was shining to the couple's right, so I had them look towards the light. So if you notice, as they're coming down the hill, their faces are illuminated and it's in slow motion, and it just creates a really cool vibe. So don't forget about your wide shots, because they're the most important. They kind of fit into that adventure category of groom leading the bride, bride leading the groom, and you always want to make sure that you get those during a wedding, because those are going to be the shots that you're going to cut to during your edit, and they're going to be like, whoa, that's so cool. So don't forget those. And if you notice right now, the sun just dipped. It's no longer goldeny, but you want to keep shooting because this light is some of the best light. It's just so soft on the couple's faces and it looks amazing.